Bet on Bears fans, another edition of the Chicago Bears podcast coming your way. Pat the Designer back at it again after practice. Got a few updates here from people that the Bears have added and cut from the team. I think there's going to be some players brought back. They've kind of done this interesting way. It'd be very interesting for them to go into the season without a long snapper. Although we do have a... We do have a head coach who doesn't plan on punting or kicking a whole lot. So maybe this is how you put him on notice right here. I got to talk about some injury issues that may plague the Bears going into this Minnesota game. And then we got to talk about how practice went today. I thought a very energetic and interesting practice for the finish of practice today. All that and more in today's episode of the Chicago Bears podcast. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. As always, today's episode brought to you by the Advantage Dealer Group. Find your next Chevy, Toyota, or Acura and drive off in under 60 minutes, or they'll make your first car payment. Also brought to you by the Hard Rock Casino in Northern Indiana, Las Vegas style gaming, just 30 minutes from Soldier Field, exit 6 right off of I-80-94. All right, so we got a player returning back to the Chicago Bears here that the Bears claimed off of waivers. Basically just spent the offseason on vacation in, I believe, Arizona. Jalen Jones going to be returning here to the Chicago Bears. He was claimed off of waivers. DeMarco Jackson also claimed by the Bears today. He is a linebacker. Good pickups. You know, I think Jalen Jones brings some solid depth that you clearly need at this DB position right now. And he's somebody that Ryan Poles already knows and knows kind of the work ethic that he brings. So hopefully he'll be able to stick here. Today's release players were Scott Daly and Devin Duvernay. I wouldn't worry too much about that. I've seen people kind of saying, you know, what are we going to do? Is there an issue here? Why are we doing this? I think this was truly just releasing them to sign them back to the roster. Because there's no reason to move on from Devin Duvernay. He feels like he is your special teams guy as far as returning kickoffs and returning punts. And maybe you throw, you know, a Luther Burden out there or something like that to do more of that. But I would expect that those two end up back here on the roster. And then, of course, they signed the following players to the practice squad. Maurice Alexander is back. Miles Boykin, Britton Brown back, who was at practice today. I know that video went kind of crazy yesterday with everybody looking at the running back room and saying, hey, do we really only have one running back heading into week one? We do have another running back on the roster. Britton Brown is back in the building. Stephen Carlson, Xavier Carlton, Powers Eccles, Luke Elkin, I should say, who was doing the long snapping today. Trey Flowers, Jonathan Ford, Mekhi Garner, Tano Passanio, who I was a little bit surprised to see him get signed to the practice squad because of the relationship he has with Dennis Allen. I thought he would be a shoo-in to be on this team. Jamari Croma, Jordan McFadden, who there was some talk about him possibly the Bears trying to trade him because of how high they feel on the O-line. I guess that didn't end up working, and nobody claimed him off waivers, so he's back on this team. JP Richardson, that's right, JP is in the building. You quiet back there, EO, in the background. I know what you're thinking. And then Ricky Stromberg as well, all back on the practice squad for the Chicago Bears. Congrats, boys. Glad to see you guys still sticking around the NFL. And, you know, hope to see this team not need you a ton this year. I'm going to be honest with you. It is a congratulations. You're still getting to live your dream, but I don't want to see practice squad players up on the main roster, which may be the case as we get into now, you know, some of the things that we saw at practice today. This is the final practice that we will get an opportunity to see. And the big thing you went into this practice looking for, because at this point, right, Ben Johnson has said it. This week was about them. When you look at kind of how practice went, you can kind of see still not game planning, still not focusing on the Vikings just yet. It truly is about just them getting better. Very difficult to do that, though, if you're not on the field. Went out there looking for TJ Edwards. He's still out. Dominique Robinson, he was still out. Jalen Johnson, he was still out. And the reason, you know, to look for Jalen right now, like I said, this is the last time we're going to see these guys. Next week, you know, we won't have access to see the practice. We will get to go out there and take attendance and see if guys are healthy. So that'll be the interesting part of it. But you don't really get to see if they're out there, if they're working, if they're doing individuals, if they're doing just individuals, if they're doing team drills. You know what I mean? So I think that there are concerns there already. And then today, we saw, and I know where everybody's going. Brace yourselves, because we didn't see where this went, but Jaquan Brisker ended up going out, banged up. didn't see the play that had happened on, but you saw him get up slowly. He leaves with a trainer and they go into the shed. I was trying my best to kind of keep an eye on that shed to see if a cart ever came. Never saw him go back to the facility. Don't know if somebody else did. If they did, and they reported, drop a comment in the comments below. But truly, I think that is a question mark right now on this team. Also saw Ruben Hippolyte get banged up and walk off with a trainer as well. So the injury bug is something that, let me know in the comments below. I know it's still a week away from the first game, and really, I mean, we're 2 weeks, kind of. What are we? 9 days, 8 days away, something like that from the first game. So a little over a week. We're not 2 weeks, a little over a week. Are you concerned right now that heading into week 1, you're going to have a team that is banged up, that is extremely, I don't want to say extremely, but like you've got some big pieces on this defense. I've talked about Jaquan Brisker as a guy who he feels like the energy of this team. Dare I say, when you talk about this defense, you hear how they speak about Jaquan. I'm not going to say that he is the only leader or he's the biggest name that is there, but he does feel like the energy. He does feel like the lifeblood. And guess what? When we saw Jaquan not out there last year, that's when the defense started to nosedive the wrong direction. I don't know if I'm concerned that Jaquan is not going to be in the game just yet, but when you start to see kind of where this Bears team is starting the season off, and I know nothing season ending, nothing concerning from your main starters as of yet, but you do have to start the side eye and say, okay, we may be going into this a little bit shorthanded at some very important positions. We already knew, right, the cornerback position was going to be one where, and we did see Kyler Gordon back out there. We've seen that last couple of days, so good to see Kyler back on the field. Good to see him kind of working himself back into the mix. I feel like, that's somebody you can count on right now heading into week 1. But outside of that, you're rolling with Nashawn, right? You're rolling with Jalen Johnson you're rolling with Tyreek Stevenson because you do have to ask yourself the question. While maybe Jalen Johnson is ramping himself up and he's getting himself back right, are you going to throw him out there versus Justin Jefferson week 1? Are you going? He's probably not. And Ben Johnson talked about this. He's probably not going to be in football shape as of yet. He hasn't taken hits. He hasn't taken those big tackles. He hasn't been running full speed with top wide receivers going across from him. Didn't get an opportunity to compete in anything in this training camp. Missed that big practice that everybody has talked about ad nauseum at this point. Like there's all these moments where you do have to ask yourself, while we're glad to have Jalen healthy, and I would say a banged up, not working in the playbook Jalen Johnson at, 80% of maybe the player that he can be when he's done everything in the offseason is still better than a right now Tyreek Stevenson or a right now Nashawn Wright or a right now Kyler Gordon. I do think you have to ask yourself, okay, well, do you want to risk Jalen possibly re-aggravating this injury by rushing him back or, this is soft tissue, and it's a soft tissue injury that has lingered now for 4 months. It's a soft tissue injury that has basically lingered around for 4 months, which means it's probably something that even though you're taking your time, even though you're trying to slow play this thing, that's going to plague him throughout the season. I just don't know if you want the first matchup for Jalen Johnson to go out there and beat Justin Jefferson. I know Jalen wants that matchup. I know Jalen wants that smoke. We know that about him. But it is going to be interesting to see if that's what the Bears are looking to see from Jalen Johnson here week 1. We know that they've said that the game plan is for him to be healthy. We'll see just kind of how that plays out. But I've got some concerns right now in that DB room as a whole. When you look at that, when you look at Jaquan, now again, Jaquan walked out under his own power. But those two are so key in this Dennis Allen defense. Having a guy like Kyler as well, but having that corner that you can leave on an island and that safety that you can blitz in any manner of ways, but you can also drop him back into coverage, but you also can have him play in the box, but you also there's so much you can do with Jaquan Brisker that it does make you feel like you might be a little bit behind the 8 ball going into this game. Now, Dennis Allen's record before he started coaching the Saints pretty much versus rookie quarterbacks has been pretty good. I think he's only lost 2 games versus rookie quarterbacks in his entire career when he's calling the defense. So I don't know if I'm still that worried. We got to see what JJ McCarthy is going to be week 1, but you do have a team right now that is limping to week 1. And while it is not as bad as some of these other teams, right? Like we got some season endings with Zay Frazier and with Terrell Smith, but it's not to your big names right now. You do still got to watch that and say that could be something that disrupts this team in the long run. Let me know how you guys feel in the comments below. Is that something that you are concerned about right now? We also got to talk about Ruben Hippolyte and TJ Edwards still being out. I would assume, right? If TJ's out, that would mean Ruben kind of slides into that spot right now. You're probably looking at Noah Sewell next to Tremaine Edmonds if this injury does linger on. We still don't know what that is. I would assume we figure that out at some point, probably Thursday or Friday of next week. We'll get kind of that final injury report to see who's going to play in the game and who's not. And I think the first report has to come out Wednesday. So, well, no, because we got a Monday night game. So probably Thursday. First report will have to come out. And we'll see kind of what, where this team stands at. I would expect that list of injuries is going to be a little bit lengthy right now. I know we're only talking about the main guys, but there's going to be some guys that you have to throw on that list that probably are dealing with dinks and little things that they're trying to fight through to be out at practice, especially when you're those end of the bench guys, especially when you're the guys who are, fighting to make this team. I would say, even looking at a guy like Kyle Monangai, who did end up making this team, what is he dealing with right now? That's another player who currently is banged up on this roster. Like, you do head into week 1 limping a little bit, and hopefully it's something. And one thing I love about Ben Johnson is how his attitude is, we have to find a way to overcome it. It's not, I was going to say, hopefully it's something you can overcome. Ben Johnson's mentality is we have to find a way to overcome it. And that's the right thought process that you have to have heading into every single football game. Outside of the injury issues, though, like I said, let me know how you guys feel in the comments below. Practice was, it was the final practice of this set before you start the game plan for teams. There were some nice plays. There was some trickery. I think we end up seeing, let me scroll up a little bit here. We end up getting a little double, a reverse play. We end up getting a flea flicker to Caleb as well. That Caleb threw to Rome. It pretty much hit Rome in the hands, and Rome wasn't able to bring that one in. I was a little bit upset on that one on an underneath there, but excuse me. Got a good chance to look at some of the offensive linemen and one-on-ones versus the defensive linemen as well. And it was kind of let's finish out this practice strong. We got our pads on. It was the final padded practice of this section before we get into game planning versus teams, and they wanted to finish it off strong. And I thought both sides had a strong effort. I thought that early on the defense really dominated the practice. I thought by the end of it, the offense has started to fight back. You started to see Caleb threw a nice touchdown to DJ Moore on the right side, possibly had a blown coverage there. But DJ pretty much walked in solo. And then how the practice ended was Ben Johnson screaming out in a 1-play 4th down situation from the 6. The blitz is coming. Caleb knows it. He drops back. He throws a dot to, I'm talking about high back 5 corner of the end zone. One hand, boom, into DJ Moore, drags the toe. He goes out of bounds, and DJ just celebrating like he just won the Super Bowl on that catch, takes the helmet off, takes the jersey off. There was some pelvic thrusting, but you guys know the rule. He was under 4 pelvic thrusts, so there was no flag thrown on that. You got to be under 4. 3 pelvic thrusts, or no, was it? You got to be under 3. Under 3. I'm sorry. 2 pelvic thrusts, you're good. That third one, we got to throw the flag. Everybody knows that's the NFL rule book right there. So, no, man, it was just good to see the energy. It was good to see the vibes with how the team finished. The entire team comes around DJ and celebrates with him like you just won the Super Bowl. And I think it's a mindset thing. You know what I mean? Celebrate your wins. It's the one thing that while Matt Nagy was here, I actually thought he said right. When you talk about club dub, yes, club dub gets annoying when you're losing games and it sucks and blah, blah, blah. But you truly do have to cherish every single win that you get in the NFL. And I think that's creating the mindset in practice that you can take into a game that, hey, this is how we go out here and we win games. If we're in these situations, can we complete these passes? Do we have confidence that whoever that receiver is back there is going to make that play? We know Caleb has confidence in his receivers because we saw it in that Kansas City game when he threw that ball to Rome Odunze, and he said, at 10 times out of 10, I am going to give Rome an opportunity to go out there and make that play. And I like the fact that Caleb has built that trust up with the wide receivers that he had. And I'll tell you this, I like the fact that we finished out this entire camp, even though camp was over this week and it was just a practice, with DJ Moore and Caleb Williams showing we're still on the same page. It just hasn't been about DJ to this point. We're still locked in. It's just been about building this up, making this play right here, because we know we've got DJ in the bag. That's how today's practice felt. The other thing that I observed from today's practice that I thought was really good, got to see Luther Burden get in with the ones pretty much the entire time. Did not see him get cussed out once for being in the wrong spot. Did see Braxton Jones get cussed out. I don't know what he did. It was a run play, but Dan Rashard came out and was like, Braxton, what the are you doing? It was a table flip. It was crazy. It was kind of par for the course for these practices, but it was funny to see like Luther Burden finally be able to get in there and not have the miscues, not have the issues. I think there was an alignment issue one time, but those things at times can happen where it's like, no, you gotta, come in a little bit more or go out a little bit more. Like as long as you're in remotely the right spot, that's where the quarterback can help you out. Now, do I want him to know those things like the back of his hand? Yes, because another thing that continued to pop up today, I think we had 3 potential delay of games, one that was for sure called, but there were 3 potentials where, they give you that second after the clock hits 0. There's some of these plays where, and I observed one where I think this is why, Caleb's got to get the play call right. He's got to get in the huddle. He's got to get everybody organized. That is the quarterback's job. I think there's going to be a learning experience with this offense, and why Ben Johnson talks about, the week 5 bye and how important that can be is there's going to be a conversation that's had with Ben and between him and Caleb of we got to shorten these play calls. There's one play call. Caleb doesn't get into the huddle. The play call's not over until 18 seconds on the clock. Now he's got to get in there. He calls the play. They get out of the huddle quickly. But now he's working with 11 seconds on the clock. Defense does something. He's killing the play. Now he's at 5 seconds on the clock. He's clapping his hands, gets the snap off. There was a second where it's like that could have been delay a game. They look like they let it go. I don't know one way or the other. Like, I get it. You're trying to speed it up, but there is going to have to be a conversation once Caleb gets a lot more comfortable with this offense between him and Ben of like, we got to shorten the key words and key terms. Because again, and I know, this is something that's gone overlooked, but it's something that's been brought up a little bit more now. And I think Declan Doyle talked about it on Monday. They're not using the wristbands. Remember, Caleb had the wristband on his wrist last year, and he can kind of see the play, and he knows what audibles go. Ben Johnson is saying, know the offense. It's in your brain. Everything that you need to know is up here. You just need to know how to access it, when to access it, and when to call X, Y, and Z. And the mindset I like with that, because what it does is if you get into a situation like we saw Caleb last year where he's at the line, he really doesn't know what's going on. That final game of Matt Eberflus at Detroit in Thanksgiving, and he's basically sitting there going, all right, I just got to call something. And he checks the Rome on I think it was an over route that he tried to hit Rome on there. It's just having that already in your brain, being able to go up to the line, see what the defense is giving you, not liking the play, having the confidence to say timeout for one. I think there will be a very different world there as well. But just being able to walk up to the line, see what the defense is doing and go, okay, I know exactly what we need to call, even though I don't have communication with my head coach right now. This is what we're going to check to. That's invaluable information for a young quarterback to have. And I think that's going to be a real game changer for Caleb as we continue to start to see what he looks like in game, and we start to see his development on the actual play field. One more thing before we get up out of here. We did get a chance to see what Ryan Poles was talking about with Kiran Amagadjie getting some work in there at left guard. I would assume that is where you're trying to develop him for the foreseeable future. He kind of felt like he was a left guard the entire time, but he was getting that work in with the twos today. And I would assume that your hope is that Kiran eventually becomes your backup left guard while Joe Thuney is there, and then can step right into that role whenever you end up moving on from Joe Thuney, which, I mean, I would assume probably by the end of this contract, unless Thuney's still dominating and wants to play, he can stay as long as he wants for me. I love being able to say all pro Joe Thuney on this offensive line. That's my favorite thing about him being here. But yeah, man, listen, it was a very docile practice. No practice tomorrow. We'll see kind of what this team is going to schedule wise and how they're going to do things heading into next week. I'll update that for you guys once I know, because they haven't told us anything yet. But appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love. As always, hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. If you're on the podcast side listening, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review on the Spotify podcast, which you can do now as well. We appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love, man. It's your boy Pat the Designer, back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bed down. One love. Peace.